Today I'm interviewing Lea Lazaric, who is an incredible woman, top of the finance world.
I do think that finance is definitely an industry that just needs more women.
But what is it that's stopping them?
I think structurally the industry hasn't done enough to make it possible. You have a lot of women entering at the bottom and then they leave mid-level through. You go through a journey and it's never a straight line. It's kind of up and down, up and down.
Hi and welcome to Driven Women, brought to you by Cash and Rocket. I'm Julie Brangstrup and this is a space where horsepower meet ambition, where style, energy and a little bit of rebellion fuel every conversation.
You cannot do everything. You cannot be an amazing professional 100% of the time and an amazing mother 100% of the time. You have to find that balance that works for you.
Whispering into yourself at the age of 21, what would you say?
Whatever you do, have fun with it. I think that's really hard when you're younger because there's so much stresses. You don't know who you are. Try to enjoy it. The reality is whatever you want to do in life, you're going to have to work hard at it. Halfway will get you nowhere. Persistence and just not giving up will get you a very long way.
I have a lot of questions for you, so I hope you're ready. You ready for the drive?
Absolutely.
So, let's go back to the beginning of why finance and how and how did you get there?
Well, I think I fell into finance a little bit by sort of coincidence. I was studying at the LSE, London School of Economics. And when we were sort of applying for internships, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was studying management and everyone was applying to these investment banks. I mean, I barely knew the names of any of them. So I said, okay, well, if everyone's applying there, I'm going to apply there too. I had no idea what any of the departments were that we were applying to, and I managed to get an internship at Goldman Sachs, which again, not knowing much about it, and then I did, and that was back in 2000, and I quite liked it. I liked the people that I met. I can't say that I knew much about the job. I mean, I spent 2 months there, but I got to see the different departments, understood sort of what finance entails, and thought, okay, I could sort of do this. And then after the internship, when I was applying for jobs, I was actually the president of the aerobics society at LSE.
It's very fancy.
I know. And the banks contacted me to be able to advertise to women, because obviously there was a big push to hire women. So they organized a dinner where I invited all the women that were part of the aerobic society, and I went to that dinner as well. And I met a woman who said to me, I think you would be great. Why don't you come in for a day, I'll show you around. And I said, okay, I'd love that. And it was a woman from UBS, and then eventually they offered me a job. So that's kind of how I ended up there.
And in what within finance, that's a lots of different things you can do. What is your
absolutely.
expertise?
So I work today I work at Evercore, which is a US advisory firm, and I work in sort of the private equity arena in a transactional business that is sort of about let's say providing capital solutions and sort of selling assets to raise money to essentially give back to the LP. So it's under a private capital umbrella and mostly touches sort of private equity. But I've been at Evercore for 10 years now. I spent 15 years prior to that at UBS. So I've been in finance for 25 years now, which is a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah.
And obviously to start with, being a woman in an industry that was super and still is male dominated, what's it like? I mean, has there been
I think there's kind of two sort of answers to that question. I think on sort of one side, I think what's hard about it is that some of the things that you go through as a woman, there aren't that many people that can sympathize, right? So I think that the big decisions in life and the big things that happen to you, like having children and going on maternity leave, coming back, if there is not a lot of people around you who've gone through the same experience, it's very difficult to ask questions and to sort of form connections with people who can help you get through that, right? And I think that's very much still the case in finance. I think there isn't enough senior women, so I think it's hard that when women are going through a career, they want to look up and see someone they want to be like, and because there isn't many of that, it's hard to kind of retain women. So I've definitely found that going through my career. I think not having sort of many role models that were kind of more senior, I think is definitely sort of a problem. I think there is another side to this though, that, you know, I've always worked in client-centric positions, and I've actually found that sometimes being a woman can help.
Right.
And I find that, you know, I work with a lot of, you know, very senior male men who run large private equity funds, and, you know, I am someone who's not threatening. You know, when I walk into a room, my approach is very different than maybe the one of some of my male colleagues. So I find that sometimes I can, you know, form connections easier than some of my male colleagues. So I think that there's sometimes, because you are, you know, you are female, it can give you a bit of an edge, especially in working with clients.
Right.
Because women are also generally, I mean, you know, they're relatively good at forming relationships. They can show empathy. They can connect to people in a different way. And I think when there's not this competitive element of, you know, who's kind of smarter in the room, which, you know, I don't have with any of them.
Well, you don't need to compete. You're
Yeah,
always showing them.
exactly. I think that can help. But I do think that finance is definitely an industry that just needs more women.
But why not now? You would have thought there would be more senior women out there. I mean, it's been pushed so much. But what is it that's stopping them? Is it family? Do they have to choose and they can't do both?
Yeah, I think structurally the industry just hasn't done enough to set itself up to make it possible. Because I think, looking at my life, I think, you know, the reality is that women, it's, you know, you go through a journey and it's never a straight line, right? It's kind of up and down, up and down. And I do think that, you know, a lot of women, when they have kids, right, they want to have the flexibility to spend time with their kids, or they want to have, there's various things, right? One is kind of flexibility. So I think giving women a little bit of flexibility, and that doesn't necessarily mean they will work less, right? They will just work differently. Yeah. I think, and finance hasn't been great about this flexibility. I think it's become much better since COVID. Yeah. But I think that is it's been quite rigid. That is one of the reasons why sometimes we see a lot of women drop out at mid-career. So I think the flexibility aspect is something that finance hasn't been great at.
So they go away, they go maternity leave, and then they don't come back.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem in finance is that you have a lot of women entering at the bottom, and then they leave mid-level through. Yeah. And then I think another thing that happens is that, you know, there is power in numbers. The more of us there are, the more there will be, right? Yeah. Because you want to kind of be part of something. Yeah. And I think that if you're, you know, if it's a 10% women in a company and middle management is all men, you know, there are things that happen where women are kind of directly excluded, and it's not on purpose, by the way. It's, you know, everyone is aware, everyone wants diversity, everyone is bought into it. But sometimes there's these inside jokes, or, you know, the boys go and play golf, and, you know, I'm not interested in golf. I don't want to play golf. I find it super boring.
But apparently a lot of business havens out there.
I know, exactly. So am I going to miss out if I don't play golf? And, you know, I'd much rather, you know, organize a women's event where we go and do something that's much more fun for us, you know. But if I'm the only woman, they're going to go and play golf, and then that's kind of my choice of what I decide to do.
So what do you do?
I definitely don't play golf. Well, I mean, I think I have, you know, I've been very fortunate. I have a great network of senior women, clients, you know, colleagues, friends. And I just, you know, I think it's at my kind of stage of my career, I'm not fighting anymore, you know, to do what I want to do. I'm not fighting, so I organize the events I want to organize, and I invite the people I want to invite. And I think I'm also at the stage that when something's happening that I think is not inclusive, I can say so. I can say, actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different that will include everyone, and not just the people who like to do that one activity. So I think I try to sort of do my bit in kind of, and I always say, you know, I work in a team. We are 3 partners, all women.
I love that.
Obviously our team is, I think it's probably, let's say 60-40 men to women, or maybe even 70-30, but the 3 of us are all women. Okay. And it's a dream. Yeah. You know, working with senior, capable women. And sometimes people say, oh, women don't like to work with other women, you know, they're not nice to each other. think it's it's totally not true. I think I absolutely love it because there's no politics, there's no wasting of time. Everyone knows what they're doing. We can rely on each other. It's just so much more efficient and kind of fun and sort of natural. And I have nothing against working with men. I work with a lot of men, obviously, but there's just something special about it.
Yeah. And that's a new thing.
No, I've been working with these women for the last 10 years now.
Okay, so also for the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you handle being a mother of three in that way, still of going, to the sports days and holidays, and like now they have another 2 weeks holiday in October, and I mean it's constant. How do you?
I think it's I think it's hard. But I think you have to realize early on that you cannot do everything 100% of the time, right? You cannot be an amazing professional 100% of the time and an amazing mother 100% of the time. So I think you learn to do things that are kind of good enough. And I think you have to decide that, sometimes you press the gas button and you go 100% focused on work. And then, yes, the family will suffer, a little bit. And then you switch it around and you spend a little bit more time on family. And yes, the work will suffer a little bit, but you have to find that balance that works for you. And I think for me, I have some kind of non-negotiables. And I think to me...
What are they?
Well, to me, it's like generally when my kids, when summer holidays on, I want my children to be in Croatia, so I go to Croatia and I work from Croatia. And so we just move the family, we spend 6 or 7 weeks in Croatia, and some of it I work, some of it I'm on holiday. But I think it's important to me that my children have sort of, a life that kind of they deserve, and I think I will work around that. And that doesn't mean that I will still do the work, and it's okay because I have the flexibility to do so. But that, for example, or if it's an important thing at my kids' school, I will be there. Now, the problem is that sometimes I'll be there with an earphone in my ear on a conference call, which is not ideal, but sometimes that's what you have to do, right? So I think that I just try and make it work, but it's exhausting because I think that the thing that happens is that I don't have a lot of time for anything else. My life revolves around my children and my work. And sometimes I think I need to just kind of take a break and take a breath and say, okay, what do I need? And sometimes I just need to, sometimes I try to allow myself the space to say, okay, let's just focus on me for 1 second. Is this all okay? But it's exhausting. But I wouldn't have it any other way because, I love what I do. I obviously love my children. I want to be involved in my children's lives. So it's kind of what I signed up for, and I'm happy to do it.
So you'll find a way around it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll find a way around it.
So when it's me time, what is me time for you?
By the way, I do want to say one more thing, actually. I think that what you can do in life depends very much also on who you end up marrying. Because I think, the reality is raising children is not if you, have a partner, it's on both of you, right? And I think that if you find a supportive partner and someone who, lets you be you and is happy to kind of, help you be you, I think that it is the most important decision that I think every woman makes, is the partner that they choose. Because if they are supportive, life will just be so much easier.
And if he's hands-on with the children, etc.
And if you can rely on them, right? So it's not just all on you. It's on both of you. And then, you split the work. And I think that just makes it so much more possible.
But what is it when you get me time? What is me time?
Well, I think
what do you like doing?
I think there's various aspects of it. Some me time is just, sleep and, rejuvenation, right? So I generally take a week a year where I go to, Lanzerhof and I just do like a complete body, I sleep, I take vitamins, I do, all these tests, and I just make sure that I give my body also a chance to kind of, okay, let's reset. So I think one is the whole health aspect, and as we get older, just looking after ourselves and just giving myself the space and time to look after myself.
Yeah.
I think the other thing for me is also like other things that I'm interested in, right? So I try to find other things that will give me, let's say, a boost, and I think it can be different things. So this year I went to Aspen to this executive leadership course, which I loved. And it was a week, I was by myself. I joined this group of people, very kind of diverse, interesting people. And I spent a week, reading philosophy and talking about, what do I think about human nature? What do I think about, leadership? What do I think about values? And I thought that was awesome. I walked around Aspen, and I just gave myself time to be with myself. Yeah. And I remind myself sort of who I am. Yeah. So that was kind of one version of kind of doing something. And then I think I also just love seeing people that give me energy. Yeah. And what I found in my 40s now is that I just love seeing women and like having, dinners or just, spending time together, women that just, friends and that give me energy because we're all at a similar place and there's a connection and that I make time for people that I want to see, basically.
Yeah. So talking about women and Africa and children, let's go back to that. So yeah. You went to Sumbandila, to South Africa to see the charity there. Yeah. With 10 other women and their children. Explain to them, what did that trip mean to you?
I think it was awesome. First of all, I think the ability to take your children and show them something like that is priceless. And I think, to me, so I grew up in different places, a lot of it sort of emerging markets. And I think when you are exposed to things like that, you just develop a different perspective, you develop resilience in a different way. And I think our children who are growing up in a lot of these very privileged societies, in a privileged, lifestyle, in the schools they go to, they sort of lose a little bit of perspective. So I think, exposing them to things like Sumbandila, I think is great. I think what the work that they do is awesome. And I think education is obviously extremely important. It's something that I, firmly believe in. So I think the whole experience was really great. And I think the people that I met, both, the group of us that went, but also the people that we meet there, I just think it's a very well organized trip. When people take a week out of their life to do something like this, they want it to be worthwhile. And I think it was totally worthwhile because both the cause is good, the experience that you have on the trip is great, and then the women that I met and the children, it was just awesome. And it forms a community and people that will stay in touch. So I think it was great.
Fantastic. So you're coming again in November?
I am, absolutely.
With
my second son.
Yeah.
So I went with Lucas, my first son, who's 13, and I'm going with Max now, who's 11. And he's very much looking forward to it because he obviously saw his brother go. And he was singing the Sumbandila song for like a month after we came back because it really stays in your head. So he's very much looking forward to that.
I know. And then so each child has to basically raise 3,000 themselves so that when we arrive to South Africa, to Sumbandila, we hand over the scholarship money and select the children.
Yeah.
It's quite a big process for the child and for the parents. Yeah. But a great bonding trip as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's amazing. And it's quite unique, actually. Yeah. I think there's not many things like that. And I think the kids really remember it.
Yeah.
So that's
I
great.
think Lee Bristol runs it. It's incredible. Yeah. One of my favorite people in the world. Right. So finance. Suddenly last year you announced that I am going to Australia for a whole term and bye-bye everyone. Explain, how did you even manage to maneuver that, and what's it like to be back?
I think, my husband is Australian, and we just felt like his parents are getting older. Our kids are half Australian, and they don't really know what that means. We go to Australia on holiday all the time, but it's different when you go somewhere on holiday as opposed to actually living the life. So we thought, and we had a great experience. During the COVID period, we actually went and lived in Singapore for 2 months. And that is an experience that our kids...
Singapore?
Yeah. So during COVID, when COVID kicked off, we thought that COVID was done in Asia. So we thought, why don't we just go to Asia and see what happens? So we boarded a plane, and went to Singapore, and ended up spending 2.5 months in Singapore.
Wow.
And we had a great experience there, although eventually Singapore locked down and all of that happened. But it was sort of a family bonding experience. Our kids loved it. And I think it's an experience that that they still talk about. So we thought, why don't we do something similar, but actually in Australia, for our kids. And I also believe that, as I mentioned before, putting kids into these situations that are uncomfortable really does help them develop character and resilience, and just makes them just think in a different way. So I thought for our kids, this could be a great experience. So we did that. We moved to Brisbane. My husband is from Queensland, and we spent 3 months there. We put them in a great school. We rented a house. We bought the uniforms. They went camping. We went surfing. It was awesome. Yeah. It was really like to be able to just drop into a different life. Yeah. And my husband has a lot of friends there, and to just experience it like a local is really a privilege. Yeah. And I think it was just amazing to have that opportunity to give that to our kids. I think it also shows you that, there's so many lives we could lead. And I think that sometimes we go through life with our head down, and sometimes lifting your head and saying, I see the different lives and I still choose the life I'm in is important. Because it just allows you to recalibrate. I am a big believer that in life you need to recalibrate, whether it's every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever that is, but you need to recalibrate of whether you are still moving in the direction that you want to be moving, or do you need some kind of pivot, know? And so I think it was a great recalibration for me. I think, my company was amazing about me doing this, and I think this is a little bit to the point where, you can make flexibility work if you are kind of also open to, being flexible about how that works. So they were great. I worked from Australia for, obviously it was very different because of the time difference, but, I didn't just completely disappear. My team definitely had me and could sort of rely on me. So it was a great experience. And, coming back, I think I definitely am still on the right path. I recalibrated and said, I am actually where I want to be. But I think I've also realized that, I do these non-negotiables that I talked about. I want to make sure that I enforce them. And I spent a beautiful amount of time with my kids over the last 6 months, and I got to know them in different ways, and there's things that I miss, right, when I work and when I don't pick them up from school. And kids are generally much better at talking when you're in the car back from school. They'll tell you what happened. By the time they arrive home, they've forgotten what happened, right? You don't get much out of it. And I just realized that there is a lot that I miss on a day-to-day. But I also realized, I said to my 13-year-old, I said, look, do you feel that I wasn't there? Because now he can obviously
see the difference.
He can talk about it, right? Yeah. And he kind of thought about it, and he said, look, I don't. I feel like when I needed you and when it mattered, you were there. Yeah. And I said, would you have rather had me all the time? And he says, I don't think it would have made a difference. Yeah. So when you hear something like that, you think, okay, it's okay, you know? But look, it's so hard, because it's hard either way, so I think you just have to give yourself a break and say, I'm doing the best I can, and kind of give the love and give yourself and kind of hope that it all works out.
But the truth is also, when you have fabulous children, but they are going to lead their own life at one point.
Absolutely.
And then if you haven't chosen what you really wanted to do, which you have, then you see, I have a few friends that just as soon as all the children are leaving, they get really lost. Yeah. And then they're trying to create their life, etc., and it gets more frustrated. So I don't think we have to sit here and justify that we picked the career and we're working, probably sometimes too much. But I think it's healthy for our children to see 100%. That.
I mean, and
hopefully it'll inspire them.
I think so. And I think, look, and my kids don't know exactly what I do, but they always say, Mama runs Evercore. I definitely don't run Evercore. but I think it's very sweet how they, have this perception, right? Yeah. And I think that it kind of sets some examples, right? And I think every person has to choose the path that they want, right? I don't kind of pass judgment on anybody's kind of life. But I think, as you say, it is hard. It's hard both ways, right? It's also hard if you choose to stay at home and be with your kids, because at some point, as you say, they leave. And I see this with a lot of my friends, right? And I think it's a real shame, because I think this is where business falls down, because so many of these women are, extremely intelligent, super capable. They've just taken some time out to be with their families, and not reintegrating them back into business is such a shame. But I think our world, or this particular the business world, is not necessarily set up for that, and I think that is a lost opportunity. You know, and
so
that's
maybe you should start that. You should start a new network for women that chosen their children for 10 years or so, and now bringing them back into the business world.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's so much more to be done around that, and I think there are companies kind of waking up to it, and there's sort of return to work programs. But I think it's not enough.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard either way, as you say, right?
Yeah.
And and you ultimately have to choose what you feel is right for you. And I do think that there's an element of setting an example, like you say, for your kids. I mean, you have daughters, right? So I'm sure they look up and think, okay,
I'm not sure all of them. Yeah, but I'm not sure all of them wants to have a career because of seen me.
Yeah.
I think a few of them out of the four.
Yeah.
And the other ones.
But they're probably still, who knows? Like things can change.
Sure.
You know, you never know how it will go. But you know that you've left sort of a mark in what you believed was right.
No, absolutely.
And then they'll choose
we're
their
not
own
all
path.
the same. Not
exactly.
everyone. So what is the advice that you would give to your children that you thought could kind of help them?
Yeah,
on
and
the
I
way?
think, I think about this a lot, and I always think, I sometimes have the tendency to, kind of impose my own thing on my children and say, oh, why don't you do it this way and this way? And then you just realize, actually, you should just let your children be the best versions of themselves rather than you, right?
From their own mistakes.
Exactly. But I think, what I would say to them is, I think the reality is whatever you want to do in life, you're going to have to work hard at it. It doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
Halfway will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling you what to choose, but whatever you choose, do it properly.
Yeah.
And I would say, persistence and just not giving up and just keep going will get you a very long way.
Yeah.
So, it's hard work, it's persistence.
And you'll have some doors slammed.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's like you get up, you go.
Yeah.
And I think this is about, when I talked about building resilience, I think the more resilience you build, the better you get at things like this,
Yeah.
But I see a lot of young people these days just not have that rigor.
Yeah.
In anything that they do. Whether it's you're writing a presentation, or you have to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, or do you know what I mean? Or you have to print something and bring it to a meeting. There are sloppy mistakes, and I think, to me, sloppiness is just not acceptable.
Yeah.
Because sloppiness is laziness, and it means you haven't put an effort into it. If you've put an effort and you're there, and there is something has gone wrong, no problem.
Yeah.
Things go wrong in life, but at least try.
Yeah.
Try your hardest. And this is what I always say to my kids. It's like, show up and be reliable.
Yeah.
When people give you something to do, make them know that if they give you something to do, it will get done. Don't be like, ugh, and this is a little bit, the younger generations that I see in our workforce, they're all a little bit like, I kind of want to do this, but I also want to do 5 other things. So is it really that important? And, and I think that is a little bit, I don't know, we'll see how that works itself out. We come from a different generation.
Yeah.
Our generation was much more like, oh my God, put my head down, give me a job, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to be in this job for as long as I can. The younger generations are more like, I'll
Go with the flow.
Yeah, and I'll do a bit of this, and then I'll do a bit of this.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, we'll see how that goes. But I know how frustrated, I get when people are just a bit sloppy. And I'm like, that is a waste of my time. So don't, that is...
Well, in principle, also a waste of their time, because yours and theirs, because if they're not fully into it and this is not what they're burning for, then they should go and find what they really, I know. So what would be, whispering into yourself at the age of 21, what would you say?
I mean, I think, one of the things I try to kind of instill is, whatever you do, have fun with it, like try to enjoy it. I think that's really hard when you're younger because there's so much stresses. You don't know who you are. You know, now in my 40s, I think the 40s rock. I think in your 40s, you know who you are, you know what you want, and you can have so much more fun with it. I think in your 20s, you're like, oh my God, is this the right path? In your 30s, you know, if you have children, you're probably barely sleeping, so you're not thinking anything, you know? So in your 40s, you're like, I'm okay, I know who I am, this is kind of where I want to go. Maybe a few things. One is, I think women sometimes, when they are very driven, can be a little bit inflexible. You know, you hear sometimes that, and I definitely am one of those, meaning that, you know, a lot of women, driven women who get to a top, you hear people say, oh, you know, she's very capable, but, you know, she's not very nice, or, you know, oh, she's such a pain to work with because, you know, she's trying to get things done, but she's aggressive. You know these things.
But do you have to be like that to be in your world? Do you have to be a bit aggressive and push a little bit? And
I think you have to be assertive, but I think what I learned with age and time is that you also have to be a little bit flexible, because I think the reality is that, you know, you should make other people's jobs easier too. And sometimes this whole like, well, it's on me and everyone's against me and I'm going to kind of fight and everyone's, you know, oh, they're so annoying. It's just, you need a little bit of flexibility to kind of navigate the system, whatever system that is, right? Yeah. So I do think that rounding off hard edges is what has happened to me with age. And I think
But don't you think it happens to more or less everyone? They get to know themselves, and then they get to understand themselves and how they can deal with different situations. So
I think it's a women thing though, more. Well, maybe it's
the matureness, and slowly
maybe. But look, otherwise, I mean, it's the same thing I would have said before. It's like, look, you know, work hard, but also don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned. If you want something, just ask for it.
Yeah.
More times than not, people will be fine with it. But if you don't ask, you'll never get it.
Yeah, very true. Right, last question. Your view on AI. Are you worried about it? What's your kind of, you know, everyone keeps having different opinions of how amazing it is on certain element, and then how much it's going to take over our life and what's going to happen to our children. You're a mother of 3.
I don't know or use it enough, I think, to be able to comment on, you know, the intricacies of it. What I would say is that I think it's a revolution, and I think it's here to stay. So, you know, we can sort of complain about it, but it's here. And we were having this conversation over dinner. We had a partner dinner last night with our CEO, and we were having the AI conversation. And, you know, my point, and, you know, finance actually is a dinosaur in AI. Like, the finance industry barely touches AI. And it's hilarious.
Well, how come?
Just because it's an old school industry, and it's run by people who are older, who don't know how to use AI. I mean, okay, yes, they can download ChatGPT and ask a question, but they don't spend a lot of time thinking about AI. I mean, the generation that is thinking about AI and using it effectively doesn't run those places, you know? Yeah. So I think that is a little bit what's happening. And I, as I said last night, it's like, you know, this is here. So we need to think about sort of how are we going to use it. And it's so powerful. And I've seen what it can do. I have people who know how to use it. So I think we need to think about it and embrace it. Does it slightly scare me? Yes, it does. You know, could I see a world where the generative nature of it comes to a point where it kind of takes over? I mean, you know, I don't know. Yes, I mean, you know, are robots going to be able to do things better than us? Absolutely. Possibly, you know. So I think it is going to change the world. Yeah. You know, is it better? I don't think so. You know, I think is it potentially more efficient? Is it sort of more correct? Maybe. But I think that what we are losing, and what I am sad about for our children, is kind of the humanness
interaction
of it. And the relationships. You know, what is life about? If you look at psychology books, if you read anything about what makes people happy, it's generally connections and community that make people happy. Like, people, whatever you think, you know, the people that have more connections are generally happier people, because that's kind of what it comes down to in we are still social animals, right? And I think that's just getting a bit lost. And I think it's, you know, it's obviously the whole tech, it's not just AI, but AI just takes it to another level.
Yeah.
And I think that our kids, you know, it's different dangers for different, you know, ages. I think the whole, you know, when you read these articles, some kids are asking AI, you know, what, you know, should I eat this or should I eat this? Should I go left or should I go right? Right. So I think it's just taking some decisions away, which is a real shame, you know, and people are not maybe learning in the same way anymore. But yeah, who knows? But it is a bit scary, but it's here. So we need to get our heads around it and
work with them.
Yeah, work with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming to
Julie.
this fabulous little amazing taxi at the Peninsula London.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It was
always a pleasure.
Very interesting. And I look forward to our trip to South Africa.
Absolutely.
Coming up very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.